How's it going, everybody? Welcome to round 3 of feature matches for this week. We've got a very meta matchup here this time around in that of Salamangreat versus Sky Strikers. And depending on when this ban list comes out, it's going to be the last possible time we see maybe a Sky Striker matchup on the channel. I don't know what the future of the deck holds, whether Ray will go, whether Engage will get hit, or Hornet Drones will be banned. Who knows? But Salamangreat, I don't feel as though is deserving of any hits on the ban list at the time being. I feel like it's probably one of the more balanced meta decks that currently exists. But these decks have been going head-to-head for quite some time at, trying to decide who is the #1 deck of the format. I always think Striker's been a bit better, but Salamangreat still definitely not to be counted out for sure. So Sky Striker winning the die roll here, and sending off a Lost Wind off of the Area 0, setting 2 end phase, adding Engage off the Shizuku. But on that summon of the Shizuku, we see that Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, which is a rather very strong card to have in this matchup here, strictly because of the protection from targeting, turning off cards like Widow Anchor. In this case, a more trap-heavy build of Sky Strikers like we've seen in the past. Now that Widow Anchor has gone to 1, and there's less forms of searchable interruption, you can kind of substitute that with cards like Compulse, Lost Wind, etc. So Lady Debug, actually, it's been a while since I've seen a Debug get things started for Salamangreat, but nonetheless working out just fine here. Going into the Baylink, searching out a copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary, of course allowing for some easy relinking, and then of course on that summon of Baylinks, not going to forget to reset the Lost Wind. Very optimal card to have sent to the graveyard via the Area 0. Now discarding Spinny, actually being able to boost up the Phantasma here. And then on the resolution of the Spinny, Gazelle is going to hit the board. And Gazelle, of course, is going to use its effect to dump a copy of Rage to the graveyard. Now, this match was, I believe, about 38 or so plus minutes unedited. So this one does go right down to the wire. That's why it's sped up quite a bit. I think it's like 160% sped up. I figured I'd point that out real quick in case things look really fast. And on the Summon the Mirage Daily, there's a Compulse. Of course, Phantasma is going to try to protect, but he's also got the Widow Anchor. Hard opens the one of Widow Anchor, so Phantasma can't fully do its job there to protect, but at least making him burn a Widow Anchor in the process. So what else can you really ask for in that position? Phantasma is a fantastic card in this matchup. I remember countless times, at least playing Mech Knight at YCS, using Phantasma to protect all of my plays. Most of them, from at least that Widow Anchor that would come out. Just such a strong card. Now relinking into a Baylinks, and then recycling a Baylinks with Jack Jaguar to be able to link into a Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, possibly trying to get this Rage back, if at all possible, because Rage could prove to be very good for shutting down a possible comeback. He's going to go into the battle phase and swing over the Shizuku. It's only down by 1, I believe, only by 100, so only take 200 there. Of course, Ray will come out as a result, and Ray tags into the Kaina and targets the Phantasma. Makes it so it cannot attack until the end of the next turn. I believe it's worded like that. And then he'll set 2 and pass it over to the Sky Striker player. Now that Kaina's on board, he can start sort of regaining some of those. If it is a small amount of life points that he lost, can start to regain them and make it so that it's almost like he never lost them to begin with. Gonna lead now with the Area 0. We know he has an Engage in hand. Search it in the end phase of his last turn. Cosmic Cyclone being played in response. Great card there to stop that. Will not proc its effect upon destruction to summon another Ray from the deck. Don't need any more Ray access than he already has. So he'll clear that for the cost of 1,000. No problem. But this Phantasma is still sitting on the board. Phantasma is such a clutch card in this matchup. I cannot stress it enough. So he'll start with the Engage after the Area 0 play is not going to go through. A couple options here. Probably go for Hornet drones, you could go for another field spell. You could go for the afterburner to try to clear back row. You could go for jamming waves to clear multiples. And that is actually what he ends up going for. Will not get the bonus card off the engage, which is nice. So we'll definitely play the afterburner, not the afterburner, the jamming wave. Hits a set solemn strike. Does not have 3 spells upon resolution. Won't be able to destroy an additional monster. But goes into Kagari nonetheless afterwards. And also gaining 200 life points in the process off that kind of. So sort of healing back the damage that he took the past turn from the Sunlight Wolf. And then engage, of course, being added back off Kagari, going into another engage play. Widow Anchor, been exhausted at this point. Cannot retrieve it or search another one right now. I mean, he had the opportunity to retrieve it, but would miss out on an engage. Adding Afterburner here. Afterburner could allow for some more removal, but Phantasme is a card. So, again, if he does try to Afterburner here, he will have to worry about it being negated. But Salamangreat player going to have to discard that, what looks to be, anyways, the last card in his hand. So he's going to have to make a bit of a decision here. And he is going to 100% do that, discarding a Flame Buffalo to negate the Afterburner. Checking a back row, perhaps maybe a response to the Thanos, but going to let it go through. And then going to the battle phase here. Kagari is big enough to get over the Mirage Stalio for 100, but he'll definitely protect it with the Balinks. End phase going to Shizuku. Probably going to activate the end phase effect, of course. We know he has Engage, Widow Anchor, Afterburner, and Jamming Waves in the graveyard, so won't be able to add any of those. Of course, as per usual, but could look towards multi-roll. Could look towards Shark Cannon being a great target. Shark Cannon can clear some problematic cards out of the graveyard next turn, acting like a call by the grave, or use it here in the end phase. We know he has a Gazelle in the graveyard, so that could be a pivotal card in his engine to be able to remove. Also looking to Jack Jaguar, but could be kind of, you know, obvious that most Salamangreat builds are currently playing 2 Jack Jaguar anyways, so maybe hitting the Jack Jaguar not a good idea, but of course going for the one of Gazelle, a great card to clear. So I'll end his turn there. Pass it back over to our Salamangreat player. I believe having 5 or 6 spells engraved. Maybe 5. And as a Salamangreat player right now, you actually have some good recovery options here. Since he was kind of forced to banish the Gazelle, because you do not want him adding that back. I mean, he has so many cards in his hand right now and engraved to work with. You kind of got to choose the greater of those evils in the graveyard amongst the Spinny, the Jack Jaguar. So going with the Gazelle, but of course Spinny will be able to jump out of the graveyard, triggering the Sunlight Wolf effect to be able to add back Jack Jaguar, and then relinking into another Sunlight Wolf, and that Lost Wind will be activated. Phantasme, that again there to protect. That Lost Wind, I believe, also should be banished, which I think he remembers to here in a moment. Yep, so there it goes. So it was reset off of a Bailing summon earlier in a previous turn. So Jack Jaguar now in the graveyard thanks to the discard outlet provided by the Phantasme and also protecting the Sunlight Wolf. Be able to add back the Rage too, which is great because our Striker player getting low on card advantage, which is a weird thing to say. Oftentimes, Striker is the king at maintaining card advantage turn after turn thanks to cards like Shizuku and Multi-Roll, but of course with those cards, well, I mean cards like Multi-Roll going to 1 and Widow Anchor going to 1, you kind of have to spread out, you know, when you're going for those cards. You cannot usually get to all of them in one turn unless, of course, you open the stones, but those pieces will need to be retrieved after multiple turns and trying to stall, of course, you know, using Shizuku and Rei and Kaina. So Phantasme having to swing over the Shizuku because of the amount of spells in the graveyard, making it so Sunlight Wolf cannot deal with it. We'll tag out into Shizuku here in the end phase, before the end phase hits, so he can get the end phase search of Shizuku. And there's another Phantasme. Picking up 2 cards. One looks to be a Falco. The other, I'm not sure which it was exactly. Might have been another Flame Buffalo. I cannot tell quite from that little sneak peek. But I believe has the Rage set. So feeling somewhat confident as this next turn plays out. And adding a copy of Hercules base. And also playing now the Area 0. Of course, it'd be really great to have another Cosmic Cyclone at this point, but doesn't matter. The Area 0 will miss. Revealing a Demise in there as well, and a Trap Trick. So you can tell this is a very stun-heavy, trap-heavy build of Striker that we are starting to see become more commonplace now that cards, again, like Widow Anchor have gone to 1. So you do need a bit more defense in terms of traps, generic traps, and things that are trap-trickable, like the Compulse and the Lost Wind, as we know, very powerful traps in today's meta. So normal summoning Ray. And currently with the amount of spells he has in the graveyard, could be able to beat over Sunlight Wolf if he so desires. Ray also being able to possibly attack over some things right now as well. Spinny's defense is decent, but upon attack declaration, we're going to see the Rage be activated. He's being able to clear 2, summoning out another Ray, and going to link that Ray into a Hayate and just swing directly for 15. Does not look like he's going to use the effect to send a Striker card from the deck to the grave, because I don't think that would help him too much at this point. So he's just going to pass it over to Salamangreat, and he'll add back the Rage, and then link into a Balinx. Not using the add effect of the Sunlight Wolf there, I don't believe. And there's a There Can Be Only One from our Striker player, putting our Salamangreat player in a bit of a predicament. Of course, only having to send away 1 Phantasme, so not losing too much from his board state currently. Still, at least has 1 Phantasme, which that Phantasme has stuck here this entire game so far, and has definitely put in work in doing so. So we'll go into the battle phase, attacking over the Hayate for 300, since Hayate does not offer any attack manipulation. Phantasme will kill the Ray for what seems to be like for good, not tagging out into another link because he can't, because if There Can Be Only One. And now using Area 0, attempting to clear his own There Can Be Only One, and there's the Rage again. He knows he has it, not much else he can do about it at that point. And Salamangreat taking the game 1 there, out-grinding Strikers. Phantasme seeing it through all the way to the end, and helping our Salamangreat player take that game 1 somewhat commandingly. I mean, it was kind of a back-and-forth grindy game, but constantly being able to recycle the Rage, keep board presence of that Phantasme, and a clutch Cosmic Cyclone earlier on in the game too, helping him find that game 1. Now here we are in game 2, and as we enter game 2, I want to mention, of course, a quick shout out to Imperium Duelists if you guys are interested in picking up amazing tournament-ready non-effect sleeves, or some amazing effect sleeves for your collection or whatever you want to use it for, or 2-player cloth playmats, deck boxes, dices, etc. Dice, things like that. Check out their website down in the description below. Use that discount code WinterKills10 off at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. And if you're buying anything off of TCG Player, don't forget to use my affiliate link down in the description below. So our Sky Striker player wrapping up his turn there. Shizuku setting 2 and adding an Engage in the end phase, since he does not have one currently in his graveyard. So the game plan currently is to survive the next turn, stall out your opponent as much as possible, and hope to resolve as many engages as humanly possible in the next turn. But starting off with a Twin Twister could prove to be a bit of a blowout, clearing a Compulse and a There Can Be Only One, a Tikaboo, whatever you want to call it, discarding a copy of Roar, normal summoning Foxy, opting not to use his on summon effect to sort of Pot of Duality for Salamangreat cards. Balinx is going to go through to go ahead and search a field spell of his own. Of course, the one of Salamangreat Sanctuary. Now, does he have a Gazelle to follow through? Is he that good? We will find out in just a moment. Well, if he would have had a Gazelle, I'm sure he would have already revealed it at this point. Perhaps could also have Spinny, because there is a face-up spell or trap on the field. And yep, there is the Spinny. High-tier duelist right there. Going to be able to get into a Mirage Stalio. Going to use the effect of Foxy, though, to clear the field spell, despite giving him Ray access. Feeling as though it's probably not too big of a threat at this point, since the Ray cannot tag out, since the extra monster zone is clogged from the current Shizuku he has, so doesn't have to worry about it. And then going for the Gazelle off Mirage Stalio. And then dumping a Jack Jaguar. So getting 2 extenders here technically off just this one rank 3 play. Mirage Stalio still, to this day, proving to be one of the best extenders in the Salamangreat arsenal. Being able to tutor out Gazelle at will. And then Gazelle being able to get other extenders. Or great removal cards. Or, you know, defensive cards like Rage and Roar out of the deck. Back in the day, people using Fusion of Fire. I mean, Fusion of Fire to me, like, looking back, still seems like a great card. But I can see why it was removed from most Salamangreat players' builds, is it's just not worth the extra deck space and the main deck space for both Fusion of Fire and Violet Chimera, especially since Super Poly is a thing now. It's kind of less needed for a deck like this. But nonetheless, linking off into another Sunlight Wolf, not using the bounce effect of Mirage Stalio. I'm actually unsure if it is a hard once per turn on just one effect, if you can only use one effect in Mirage Stalio. But I don't think that's the case. But just opting not to use the bounce effect here. Because if he uses the bounce effect on the Shizuku, it'll proc a Ray Engrave. And also open up the extra monster zone for him to be able to link. But technically, he now has an open zone because of the Ray, and or because of the Sunlight Wolf. And a bit of a camera angle change here. The tripod was actually bumped mid-recording by one of the players, which happens sometimes. No big deal. But I was actually playing in another match and wasn't able to correct the tripod while I was playing in my match, so I have to sort of adjust the footage here in post. So I do apologize if it looks a bit zoomed in, but I did have to adjust it in post, as I said. But linking Jack Jaguar now into Balinks and using Sunlight Wolf's add back effect now, we'll have to add back that clutch and crucial Gazelle. And then setting 2, we've also getting back the Roar in the process that he was able to discard off that Twin Twister at the start of the game, blowing out a Compulse, and there can be only one. Striker now getting started by linking off the Kagari, or the Shizuku into Kagari, adding back Area 0, at least trying to. It will go through. Needs to clear this Ray, because as it stands, cannot play any Striker spells while that Ray is sitting there in the main monster zone. Trying to clear it with the 0. It misses again, revealing 2 cards of Demise and an Upstart Goblin. Would rather see those cards in hand right now to get somewhere. Looks like he's going to go into the battle phase now. Now, he could possibly make another Striker Link, but again, that's going to be at the cost of giving him a Fire Monster back. He's going to try to enter the battle phase, and Rage, again, coming in very, very clutch, clearing both the Kagari and the Ray. Ray tries to activate. Roar says otherwise, but Engage, we know he had it. It's going to activate that for multi-roll, but at least you stop the Ray from coming out. I think that is still pretty important. Even if you know he has the Engage, you can't stop everything, essentially, in a situation like this. But multi-roll gonna be able to clear the Area 0 and thus give him Ray access again. And also, in the meantime, be able to make it so his spell effects, their activations, cannot be responded to. So this second Engage is gonna go through, you know, indefinitely. 100% going through. No ashes here. Not at all. And then adding the Anchor, getting an additional bonus card though, and then end phase resolving the multi-roll to set one back and a set Engage, and then end phase using Shizuku to add a copy of the Herculean base to try to perform some Herculean tasks to try to bring this game back, which it looks like our Striker player here has made a massive comeback at this point. This looks like your typical Striker board that we've yet to see this entire match. Salamangreat securing their copy of Rage as soon as possible, because that card has put in so much work. As we have seen, our Salamangreat players done an absolute incredible job at recycling this Rage and using it to just constantly keep the advantage train from, arriving, essentially. But, I mean, hasn't been able to prevent the set 4 here. He's managed to make a comeback, our striker player, but Salamangreat player doing everything in his power trying to prevent it. But Widow Anchor here taking the Heat Leo, but I believe still having some plays to be made. It's normal summons the Gazelle to get started and dumps the Falco to the graveyard. That will proc the effective Falco to reset the Roar. But there can be only one being activated now, and I come back and fix the camera. So we're back to our regular view. Not as zoomed in and as crunched in. I do apologize for that again. But checking the graveyard now for a spell count. It's one of the things that's always the most annoying about editing any striker matches, is constantly having to figure out what the attack of the Kagari is, how much attack all of his monsters are losing. It looks like he has 5 spells engraved for that one. So we'll crash the Gazelle. So the Heat Leo can return. I don't know if there can be only one to actually prevent it from returning in the end phase, or if it would still return, and at that point he would have the option to send whichever one he would want to get rid of to sort of comply to the there can be only one. But either way, having to crash. And then using Rage here, did not have an opportunity to link the Heat Leo into another copy of itself, using itself as material. So we'll be forced to discard a Jack Jaguar here, and having to decide here, having a bit of a tough time deciding what to actually to clear off of this Rage. And he's going to go for the set engage. It will get banished. He won't be able to add that back, but then, you're not clearing the floodgate at that point. You're not clearing the multi-roll. You're not clearing the unknown. So it is a hard decision to make there. Jamming Waves will protect, and Hercules base will get negated. Or Jamming Waves, rather, will try to go through, but Balinks will protect, my bad. And then Roar stopping the Hercules base from going through. Will not proc the graveyard effect because it never technically hits the board. Now resolving a Demise. Setting 1 in end phase, ditching a Metal Foes Fusion and a Foolish Burial Goods end phase, setting 1 off the multi-roll. And getting very close to going into time at this point, because again, this match unsped up was about 39 minutes. Tries to go into the battle phase here. And I believe at that point, time is actually going to be called here momentarily. And it actually does result in a draw. Which, of course, playing against Sky Striker, a draw is not a uncommon occurrence. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this match. I hope you guys enjoyed a very, very grindy game 1 into, again, a very grindy game 2. Looked like for a moment Salamangreat was in good control there in game 2, but Sky Striker able to make a comeback through that multi-roll, through a well-timed engage, after playing through a Rage and a Roar and still following up the engage, and then I believe another copy of engage after that. Just able to make a huge comeback and continue to grind out the game from there. So that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Drop some comments down below if you think this match maybe could have played out differently. Also, stay tuned for the next round feature match, which should be pretty interesting. But yeah, join Discord, follow me on Twitter and Twitch. Links to all that stuff down in the description below. Don't forget to check out Imperium Duelist and use my affiliate link to TCG Player. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, WinnerKill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.